You were driving down the highway and you look over at a massive 18-wheeler flying past you.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at that truck, what do you see? I mean, you see thousands of pounds of steel, you smell the diesel exhaust, you feel that physical rumble on the asphalt.
Right.
It is like the ultimate symbol of heavy industry. But the reality is entirely different. That truck is actually moving through this invisible, incredibly complex web of financial tethers, IOUs, and public records.
Yeah, we assume trucking is just moving physical boxes from point A to point B, but the truth is the cargo that actually keeps those wheels turning is data and debt.
Exactly.
If that invisible financial web snaps, the truck stops. I mean, the steel just doesn't matter if the paperwork fails.
And that brings us to our mission today. We are mapping out this hidden machinery.
Right, getting into the weeds.
Yeah, we're looking at a fascinating stack of industry guides and regulatory alerts that detail UCC lien filings, credit risk management, and freight factoring. And for you listening, there is a very specific, urgent reason we are exploring this deep dive today, May 6, 2026.
Oh, absolutely. There is a massive regulatory time bomb ticking down.
Yeah.
In less than a month, on June 3, 2026, the foundational rules of how this multi-billion-dollar industry handles its money are going to change.
A lot of established players are about to be caught completely off guard.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can understand the crisis coming next month, we really have to grasp the daily financial reality of how a load of freight actually gets moved.
Right, because moving freight inherently means financing freight.
Exactly.
And it all comes down to something called a UCC filing. If you've ever dealt with a commercial loan, you might have seen one.
Right. The Uniform Commercial Code.
Yeah, exactly. Think of a UCC lien as this public flag planted in the ground by a lender. It basically notifies the entire financial world, hey, I have a security interest in this debtor's assets.
Makes sense.
So in the trucking industry, lenders file a document called a UCC-1 financing statement with the Secretary of State. And that document legally secures a loan by tying it to a business's collateral.
And our sources note this isn't just an American mechanism, right?
Right, no. In Canada, they operate under a provincial equivalent called the PPSA.
The Personal Property Security Act.
You got it. And it mirrors the exact same principles.
Now, I noticed in the sources that the scope of these filings can vary wildly. Like you've got an all-asset lien, which is often called a blanket lien.
Yeah, those are heavy.
Right. That essentially covers everything a business owns now and in the future.
Yeah.
I view that like handing a lender the master key to your entire financial house.
That's a good way to put it.
But then you have collateral-specific liens, where a lender might file a UCC-1 using only the VIN number of a single 18-wheeler.
Right.
So you're giving them the key to one specific truck, and you retain legal control over the rest of your property.
Yeah, but the primary use case for these liens in the trucking industry isn't actually for buying trucks, though.
Wait, really?
No, it's for something called freight factoring. Over 75% of U.S. trucking companies use factoring services just to function day to day.
Okay, I have to push back on this because when I was reading through the mechanics of how factoring actually works, it sounded incredibly risky.
How so?
Well, a carrier hauls a load, but instead of waiting 30 or 60 days for the broker to pay the invoice, they sell that invoice to a factoring company to get cash within 24 hours.
Right.
And then the factor files a UCC lien on the carrier's accounts receivable. Isn't that just like an overpriced payday loan for trucks?
I mean...
Why would a business owner voluntarily surrender legal control of their own revenue stream to a third party?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the brutal math of running a trucking company. The margins are razor thin, and the costs are immediate. Say you haul a refrigerated load of produce from California to New York. You have to buy thousands of dollars of diesel fuel today.
Right, you can't put that off.
Exactly. You have to pay your driver their per-mile rate today. Your insurance premium is due today. You mathematically cannot wait 45 days for the broker's check to clear.
Ah, I see.
So factoring isn't a predatory payday loan. It is literally the core liquidity engine of the supply chain.
I hear you on the cash flow, but giving up legal control of your receivables still sounds pretty extreme.
But the UCC filing is the only legal mechanism that makes that immediate cash advance possible.
How so?
It proves the factoring company legally owns those specific unpaid invoices. Without that public filing, a desperate carrier could theoretically, sell the exact same $5,000 invoice to 3 different lenders.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be a mess.
Right, so the UCC1 prevents those duplicate claims.
Yep.
It's the bedrock of trust that keeps the cash and the trucks moving.
Okay, that makes the impending deadline make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
If this paper trail of UCC filings is the absolute foundation of the industry's trust, what happens when the legal definition of paper disappears?
And that brings us to the ticking clock.
Exactly.
The 2022 UCC amendments, this is the paradigm shift that is coming to a head next month.
Right.
So to lay out the timeline from the regulatory alerts, these amendments are being adopted state by state, but the epicenter of the financial world is New York.
Yeah.
New York enacted their version of these digital rules on December 5, 2025, and they built in this massive one-year adjustment period for lenders to figure out the new system.
Right.
But that grace period vanishes on June 3, 2026.
Which is less than a month from today.
Exactly. And the most critical change in these amendments revolves around a brand new asset class called CERs.
Controllable electronic records.
You got it. We are talking about the transition to digital assets, electronic contracts, and e-titles for vehicles.
Okay.
And the new rule establishes a brutal new hierarchy. Legal control of a digital asset absolutely outranks a traditional paper UCC filing.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I want to make sure I understand the mechanism of what digital control actually means.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Initially, I thought this was just like, moving from physical CDs to streaming music. But looking closer at the rules, it's much more severe than just an outdated format.
Oh, yeah. It is entirely about the mechanism of access.
Right.
Control, in the context of a CER, doesn't mean you just have a scanned PDF of a contract on your hard drive.
Okay.
It means you have the exclusive, often cryptographic ability to transfer or alter that digital asset.
Think of it this way. A traditional paper UCC filing is like holding a highly detailed map of a bank vault.
I like that analogy.
It proves you know where the money is,
Yeah.
and it's a public record that you have a claim to it.
Right.
But having digital control over a controllable electronic record is like holding the actual uncopyable biometric key to that vault.
Exactly.
The new 2026 law dictates that the person holding the biometric key always wins, regardless of who registered the paper map first. So what happens to the traditional lenders who sit back and ignore this transition on June 4th?
Well, it's going to be a bloodbath for lenders who aren't prepared. Let's walk through the scenario.
Okay, let's hear it.
Say you are a traditional lender. 2 years ago, you filed a standard paper UCC Lien on a trucking company's assets, which happened to include electronic contracts.
Right, pretty standard.
You think your investment is perfectly safe because you were first in line. But on June 4th, if a different tech-savvy lender comes along and establishes actual digital control over those same electronic records,
Oh, man.
that second lender legally jumps the line. They steal your first priority position.
Wait, so millions of dollars in collateral could just legally vanish from your control simply because you didn't update your legal framework to match the digital reality of a CER?
Yes. Your priority position evaporates.
That is wild.
Yeah. New York Assemblymember Alex Bors, who sponsored the state's bill, explained the underlying philosophy perfectly.
What did he say?
He stated that New York cannot remain the financial capital of the world if the rules for business are written for 1925 instead of 2025.
Wow, that's a powerful point.
The legislation is designed to allow modern businesses to seamlessly execute digital contracts and move electronic money. But the transition mechanism is totally unforgiving.
Okay, so if lenders are this paranoid about protecting their loans with these complex UCC filings, who is looking out for the carrier's cash flow when a broker decides not to pay?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because if factoring is the lifeblood of trucking, the freight brokers are the ones ultimately creating that flow. And looking at the data in our sources, the broker landscape seems incredibly treacherous.
Oh, it's brutal. The financial stakes of skipping a broker credit check are staggering.
Right.
The 2024 industry estimates show between $500 and $800 million lost entirely to double brokering schemes.
800 million. That's insane.
And on top of that, over $2 billion in carrier cash was tied up by slow-paying brokers. That is a massive amount of capital drained directly from the pockets of the people burning the diesel.
$2 billion tied up. But the industry has a defense mechanism, right?
Right.
A 60-second vetting process.
Right.
It's a 5-step checklist carriers are supposed to run on every single broker.
It is a highly efficient triage system, if actually used.
Exactly.
Step 1, search the broker's MC number, their motor carrier number on a load board.
Okay.
Step 2, check their credit score using industry tools, looking for a score of 90 or above, backed by at least 100 historical reports.
Makes sense.
Step 3, verify their days to pay average. You need that under 35 days. Anything over 45 is a severe red flag.
Right. Cash flow is king.
Exactly. Step 4, scan for negative reports like slow pay or double brokering alerts. And finally, step 5, verify their MC number is active on the government's FMCSA Safer website.
I want to zero in on the mechanism of the double brokering scam itself, because the sheer audacity of it is mind-blowing.
Oh, it really is.
According to the research, a scammer only needs $300 and a 21-day waiting period to legally open a new MC number.
Yep, that's all it takes.
Then they hop onto a load board and pretend to be a legitimate trucking company to a real shipper. They book a load for, say, $3,000.
Okay.
Then they turn around, act like a broker, and offer that exact same load to a legitimate carrier for $3,500.
Right.
The real carrier physically moves the freight. The scammer collects the $3,000 from the original shipper and then completely ghosts the carrier who did the work.
Yeah, it's awful.
And then the scammer closes the MC number, opens a new one, and repeats the cycle. How is it possible that a guy with a $300 registration fee can steal $500,000?
Yeah.
Like, why do carriers sketch a 60-second defense check?
It entirely comes down to the psychological pressure and the frantic pace of the logistics industry.
Okay.
Picture a dispatcher staring at a load board on a Friday afternoon. They have a driver stuck in Ohio, the driver wants to get home for the weekend, and the pressure to just book any available backhaul is immense. There is a harsh industry truth quoted in the material. It says, the carriers who get burned aren't bad at trucking. They just skipped the vetting step that takes less time than fueling up.
And the scammers weaponize that dispatcher panic.
Oh, totally.
The sources list 12 specific red flags, and the most effective bait used by double brokers is offering a rate significantly above the market average.
Always.
They dangle a massive payout on that Friday afternoon and then aggressively pressure the carrier to sign the rate confirmation immediately, which basically prevents them from running the 5-step credit check.
Yeah. They will also refuse to provide standard documentation like a W-9 or a physical corporate address.
Because they're hiding?
Exactly. Their entire business model relies on untraceability after the delivery is made. But we have to examine the true financial math of falling for this.
Okay.
Because it isn't just the lost revenue on the invoice. Let's say a load was supposed to pay $2,200.
Right.
If that broker ghosts you, you don't just lose $2,200. You have already spent roughly $650 out of pocket on fuel.
Oh.
You have burned 2 full days of your driver's legal hours of service where you generated 0 actual revenue.
Ouch.
And then you are going to spend another 10 to 15 hours over the next 2 months chasing a ghost, trying to file bond claims, and dealing with administrative paperwork.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
The total true loss easily exceeds $2,850 in pure cash and wasted time.
That brings up the most painful statistic from the material. One single unpaid load wipes out the profit from 3 to 5 good loads.
Yeah.
A carrier has to run perfectly for an entire rent just to mathematically undo the damage of skipping one 60-second background check.
Which is exactly why building a private, trusted broker list is the ultimate goal for any trucking company.
Yeah.
You vet heavily at first. You stick strictly to brokers scoring 90+. Once a broker pays you on time 3 consecutive times, they earn a spot on your trusted list.
Makes sense.
But even then, the sources warn that you must continually rerun the 60-second check on anyone you haven't hauled for in the past 30 days.
Because things change fast.
Exactly. Financial deterioration in the freight market happens at lightning speed.
So we have these two parallel worlds.
Right.
On one side, lenders are using UCC filings and digital CERs to fiercely protect their loans. On the other side, carriers are running these 60-second credit checks to protect themselves from predatory brokers.
Yeah.
But how do these two worlds actually collide? How do the legal filings meant to help carriers get financing end up destroying their credit reputation?
That collision is one of the most insidious hidden dangers in the industry today.
Okay.
To understand the mechanism, we first have to clarify a major misconception. UCC filings are not credit scores.
Right.
A UCC-1 does not reflect your payment history. However, they act as massive risk flags on a business's commercial profile.
Oh, I see.
When a lender evaluates a trucking company for a new equipment loan or a line of credit, they dissect the company's UCC history to see who already has a claim on their assets.
They are looking for priority positions. But the real danger highlighted in the sources comes from something called zombie liens and lawn stacking. What is the actual mechanism of a zombie lien?
Well, zombie lien is created purely by administrative laziness.
Really?
Yeah. Let's say a trucking company uses a factoring service for a year, successfully pays off all their obligations, and leaves to find a better rate.
Okay.
The debt is completely settled. The legal process dictates that the lender must then file a UCC-3 termination statement to remove their flag from the public record.
Okay, that makes sense.
But often the lender simply doesn't bother.
Wait, they just leave it?
Yeah. Because the original UCC-1 filing lasts for 5 years, that lien just sits there, legally active, attached to the carrier's profile.
So what does this all mean for the carrier? I'm struggling to understand why it's the carrier's problem if the lender was too lazy to do their own paperwork.
Because of how modern underwriting works. Today, human loan officers aren't manually reading every application and calling past lenders to verify if an old debt was settled. They are using AI-driven credit risk models to process thousands of applications instantly.
So the AI just scrapes the public database, sees 3 active UCC-1 filings from 3 different factoring companies, and panics.
Yeah. And this raises an important question. How does an algorithm interpret that data?
Right.
To an automated system, those zombie lands look like active lien stacking. The AI assumes the carrier is desperately borrowing money from multiple lenders using the exact same trucks and invoices as collateral.
Even though the debts are completely paid off.
Exactly. Even though the debts are zeroed out, the algorithm flags the carrier as severely over-leveraged, and their financing application is denied automatically.
And this doesn't just stop them from buying new trucks. If a carrier wants to switch to a new factoring company because they found a lower fee, the new company will run a search, see the zombie lien on their receivables, and refuse to onboard them.
Yeah.
The new lender won't risk being second in line to a ghost. So the carrier gets locked into bad financial deals just because of someone else's paperwork error?
It is incredibly frustrating. This forces a massive unfair shift in responsibility.
Yeah.
The burden of transparency falls entirely on the trucking company. A small owner-operator can't just focus on maintaining their rig and driving safely anymore.
Right.
They have to act as their own forensic accountant. They must aggressively monitor their business profile on state databases or the PPSA registries in Canada.
Wow.
And when they spot a zombie lien, they have to actively hunt down old lenders and legally force them to file those UCC-3 terminations.
And if they don't?
If a carrier ignores this administrative chore, they will slowly be strangled out of the capital markets, and they won't even know why their applications are being rejected.
It is an incredibly volatile landscape.
Definitely.
Let's take a step back and look at the journey we've just been on. We started with the foundational reality of freight, factoring the absolute necessity of trading unpaid invoices for immediate cash just to keep the diesel flowing. We explored the legal mechanism making that possible, the UCC-1 filings, and how that system is undergoing a massive digital shift. The June 3, 2026 deadline for controllable electronic records is going to severely punish any traditional lender clinging to paper filings instead of establishing true cryptographic digital control.
Yeah, and we also looked at the defensive reality for carriers.
Right.
The industry is constantly targeted by double brokering scams that exploit dispatcher panic, but that risk can be mitigated by a strict, non-negotiable 60-second, 5-step vetting process.
Exactly. And finally, we saw how those two realities violently intersect in the nightmare of zombie liens, where lazy lender paperwork triggers an AI algorithm to destroy a perfectly healthy trucking company's access to capital.
It's a lot to navigate.
It really is. For you listening, whether you work in logistics, real estate, software, or retail, there is a universal lesson here. Understanding the invisible financial mechanisms and, more importantly, the specific paperwork and digital records that control those mechanisms is the true difference between remaining profitable and becoming a victim of the system.
Well said. The rules of the game, whether written in ink or code, are always found in the fine print.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought that builds on everything we've talked about regarding digital assets and AI.
Okay.
We know that control of controllable electronic records, or CERs, is officially replacing paper filings next month.
Right.
And we know that AI models are already instantly evaluating credit risk and flagging things like zombie liens.
Yeah.
So how long will it be until the trucking industry runs entirely on blockchain smart contracts?
Oh, wow.
Imagine a world just a few years from now. An 18-wheeler hits a loading dock. The moment the GPS registers the arrival at the facility, a piece of decentralized software instantly and simultaneously verifies the digital UCC lien, executes the freight payment in digital currency, and updates the carrier's credit score in real time.
That would change everything.
No factoring company taking a 3% cut. No human broker delaying the payment for 45 days. No dispatcher frantically running a 60-second manual credit check. The truck literally pays itself based on its location and a digital key.
Unbelievable.
In that world, who really holds the power? Is it the person who owns the fiscal steel or the person who wrote the code? Next time you look at a massive truck flying down the highway, ask yourself what's really driving it.